Just preparing a few things, guys. With so many windows open right now. Just try to get in a presentable manner, shall we say. Hello everyone in chat. I'll make my presentation in a minute. I'm just letting the zombies try and drift in for Oakley's chat. Oh, Gail, I'll give you the wrench. There we go, Laurie. You have the wrench. Hello, everyone. Hello, David Sawyer. No seeing you in a while, man. Hello, Daylise. Hello, Victoria Sartan. So who's watching, Nathan? So we're going to have a wee change tonight. We're going to talk about something different. Something different from Flat Earth. But you could say it's different from Flat Earth, but it's heavily involved in Flat Earth. Religion has been a big topic within the Flat Earth. It has, like it or not. So we'll have a wee talk about religion. Okay, guys. Thanks for joining me tonight. Going to have a wee changey topic tonight. We're not going to talk about the spuds, although I did have a wee peek into Nathan Oakley's hangout. I seen Cammy, I seen Bob. I heard him say he's going to murder the globe on Sunday, so that should be interesting. That should be interesting. He says if you can provide the maths to debunk him, you'll give you 100 quid. Were these no the same people, Bob and Jaron, that said that maths don't reflect the real world? I thought they said that one time, but now they want to use maths. And it's just like that map that Cammy was showing up, the one with the magnetic field lines. Where do you think those magnetic field lines came from? Where do you think the information for those field lines came from? It came from NASA and satellites. Satellites that they say don't exist. So it's just a contradiction. I'm looking forward to Sunday, see what he's got. I fancy 100 quid. Anyway. Oh, that's another thing I was going to mention. That Pizzagate thing. That's weird, eh? That whole Pizzagate. It's strange because I was digging into that Andrea Chenchi's debate channel and it practically popped up at the same time. It was weird. And I actually watched the Pizzagate videos after trolling Andrea Chenchi. Watched it afterwards. And there was a flat earth reference in it. There was a couple of flat Earth references in those Pizzagate videos. This Chan, something Chan. And I've sat and watched some of these debates, and sometimes when you listen to them, it sounds like they're speaking in code. It does. It sounds like they use a code word and they just talk around it, and it sounds like nothing they're talking around that word seems relevant to the word. There was a guy that came in. This could be one word, guys, and I know it sounds ridiculous, but come on. The pizza is a ridiculous word to use if you're going to use it, but they use it. And one word, well, it's two words, I suppose. I've heard quite a lot, and it doesn't seem to have any relevance around it, but they keep mentioning it as crop circles in the debates channel. A guy came in and started talking about crop circles, but the way he was talking about crop circles didn't seem to be relevant to crop circles. He was like, I've got lots of pictures of crop circles. Some people don't like them. And I was like, what? What's he talking about, man? So I think this this disgusting child grooming thing could have lurked its way into flat Earth, guys. Honestly, strange times. Anyway, I didn't really want to talk about any of that, but it has sort of annoyed me over the past week or so. It's one of these things. What I wanted to speak to you tonight, guys, it's something that's bugged me for a long time. I'll just give you a brief sort of bio of me when I was younger and what religion and what it meant to me. And growing up, I grew up in a secular council estate, and we had different religions come in and go away again. There was nothing radical. My granny, she was a bit more radical. She grew up in Glasgow, and they had to sit in different buses. Like Protestants and Catholics had to use different buses, and it was hardcore in Glasgow. But in Edinburgh, we're a bit more secular. So when I was growing up, I didn't really have religion forced down my throat from my family. I've actually gravitated towards religion as I've grown, rather than it getting shoved down my throat. But I grew up in a sort of council estate, secular. We had Bosnians come over during the Bosnian Wars when I was younger in the 90s. They came, then they left. They obviously went back. We had Malaysians. We had all the different conflicts that happened around the world. If we got some immigrants that sort of came in, but they left again. They just went away again. They never really settled. But they never really got any discrimination for them to want to leave. I'm sure every one of them left in good terms with everyone. Sorry, guys, I've got a bit of indigestion or something. Anyway, so I grew up in this sort of secular council estate. Never had religion forced in my throat. I grew up with Christmas, believing in Christian values. So you could say the word atheist, I never heard the word atheist until I was in high school. I didn't even know what atheist was until I was in high school. I thought everybody believed in something when I was younger, but it wasn't a big argument about it. There was never a big argument about Christianity or Islam, or it wasn't until 9/11 that this became a big issue. Well, to me it did. I thought about it more after 9/11. I think everybody did. So where I stand with religion is, I respect religion. I respect what it gave good to the world. I also see the bad side of religion and the control the religion it does. But some people need controlled, or if they're not controlled, what are they? Out of control. So sure, religion was used to control people in a bad way. Well, for those times, it's so politically correct now that everything seems bad in the Bible. But back then, if you go back, most of the things in the Bible were if homosexuality wasn't allowed, things like that was acceptable. But nowadays it's no, and I think the Bible did give a lot of good, but I did think it's been created, and I think the Bible, and this is going to annoy a lot of people, guys. I'm not a religious scholar, but I look at it in a symbolism way. I look at the symbols in the Bible. I look at the symbols in the Quran. I look at the symbolism in the Torah, the meanings of words, the metaphors. I look at it more metaphorically. But there could be a genetic thing going on in the Bible. There could be a genetic, like this Jew. I don't think there's Jews. We'll sort of get that straight. I don't think that there's any such thing as the Jews. This is what I've realized learning about the religions. I've learned that the Quran, the Torah, and the Bible, every Freemason lodge has got one of these. As soon as you walk into a temple, they have those three books. And those three books, the Torah, and the Bible, and the Quran, they're all linked. Even Islam is an Abrahamic religion. It stems from Abraham, the Jewish Abraham. And same with Christianity. So they're all linked in a way. And it seems to me that these three main religions, these religions that are creating all this shit in the world right now, they're all connected. And I think they're all created by the same people. I think the Old Testament, could be the original Christianity, but who knows? Who knows? But what I've seen, the evidence I've looked at, is that the Bible, the Torah, and the Quran are all connected somehow. They've got the same characters in it. Jesus, Adam. Adam was the first man in the Quran. Abraham apparently built the temple in Mecca. It's crazy. It's crazy. So I think all these religions are connected somehow. So when I look at the Bible and I look at certain stories in the Bible, I don't see it as literal, as a sense. But there could be a lot of literal stuff in it. And this Jews, the Jews. Right, guys, don't you think that Jews were just Europeans? Europeans that conquered a large part of Europe, went into Asia Minor, conquered part of that, hung around for a bit, and then got kicked out again and had to come back. Or to me, it doesn't make sense that the Bible and all the biblical stories started in the Middle East. It doesn't. Obviously, everything's set. All the names are there in the Bible. It's set, but is it totally crazy to assume that maybe Christianity started in Western Europe first and spread through Europe into the Middle East? They adopted it, maybe changed it. Like the Romans probably changed the true Christianity, the real Christianity. The Romans probably got a hold of it, changed it, done stuff to it. But even the Romans, were they just a branch of Jews? The Italians, the French, the Belgium, the Dutch, the Norwegians, the Denmark, all these countries, are these just branches of Europeans like Jews? They aren't Jews, they're just Europeans. I don't think, because there's a lot of, it sounds crazy at first. It does. That sounds stupid, but there's a lot of evidence to kind of push you towards that. And especially in my culture, in the Scottish culture, there's a lot of Jewishy stuff in it. You just can't avoid it. You can't avoid it. And for all the conspiracy theorists out there, you could say that Scottish Freemasonry is just like a form of Jewish mysticism. You can't escape the fact that that's Scottish Freemasonry. Why this tiny little country in the edge of Europe is so important. Why is this country so important? And I'm going to show you a few things, guys. I'm going to stop rambling. I'm going to screen share a few pieces of evidence. But it kind of leads me to the whole Celts, the Celtic people, where the Celtic people, like a branch of Europeans, they were Europeans, but they were a different tribe of Europeans. Did they go into the Middle East, then get kicked out, and then conquered other Europeans? Because the Picts in Scotland, they were there before the Celts, but the Picts were Celtic anyway. So who knows? I think the Celtic people started or began in the west of Europe and Ireland, then spread throughout. I don't think it spread the other way. And certain stories you hear in the Bible, just like was it the Nephilim or the giants? The giants, you always hear this, and this has came up in Flat Earth as well, the giants. You've got to remember that back in these days, like, nutrition wasn't as available as it is now, and I think people in the Middle East and that part of the world were smaller. So if you've got like guys that are barely 5 foot in the Middle East, and maybe northern people come down that are bigger, and they found like armor and stuff and swords that are 5 foot, you have to be a big guy to hold some of these swords, these Northern European Viking swords and things like that. Like if these Northern Europeans invaded into the Middle East, they would seem like giants. They would look like giants. They would look totally different. So maybe these stories are just peoples, different peoples. They sound alien, the fallen angels, all this. Are these just other peoples coming in? It's just metaphors. No one believes that there's angels fallen or giants. So what are they? We've got to think, what are these? And I'm starting to think that these giants, or whatever they weren't giants, they were just big human beings for that time period. And they probably had a better diet, the Vikings, or Northern Europeans. And there's a few Flat Earth references. You hear about the Hyperborealis in Flat Earth. It's like the northern part of the Flat Earth. But the Hyperborealis, that word hyper comes from Hyber and Hibernia and Eber. It's the Celts never called themselves Celts. The Romans called the Celts Celts. The Celts called themselves Eber or Iber from the Iberian Peninsula in Spain, where they came up into Ireland and then Scotland. So could the Celts and different European races be part of these lost tribes from the Exodus? It could be a lot of the Exodus. It could be all just a story, but there could be some truth behind it. There's a reason why we've created Israel right now. It's not by mistake that Israel exists right now. We've created 2 world wars to create that country over there, Israel, and that there's no denying that. There's no denying that, and people wonder why. I wondered why. That's one of the reasons why I dug in. I thought, why is this so important? This part of the world, why is it so fought over? And you can't deny that whoever's creating this state in Israel, that's created it, believe in these stories in the Bible. They believe that the Jews should have their own land there, and they've made it there. The First World War, the Second World War was done just to create this country, Israel. So like it or no, whoever's in power here believe that the Jews have a right to that part of the land, and we're supporting them. The Western Europeans, we support them fully. Why? Well, it all goes back to the Bible. It all goes back to the Bible. And it all comes to like Revelation as well, and end times and stuff like that. It gets really freaky actually, because the tribes of Joseph were meant to be scattered, and they're meant to have lost their identity. And this is what comes to like Scotland and Ireland. Apparently, there's this connection with the tribe of Joseph and the royalty. I don't know about the Windsor stuff, but British royalty, I've got this. The Queen rules Britain through divine right. She's not voted. Like, she passes down her genes. Like, it's the only country in the world that's, well, it's not, because there's other European countries with royal families, but they have the appearance that they're not controlling their country. Just like our Queen. People think, oh, the Queen's got nothing to do with the world. Oh, she's just this old woman that sits. Nah, the Queen's very important in this world. And everything that's happening in this world is down to the Queen and these European bloodlines. Like the European countries, like even like Belgium, have still got their royal families, and these royal families, I think, these royal families believe they're parts of these tribes that got kicked out. There's no doubt, because the Queen believes her bloodline's from King David. Simple as that. That's why she rules us through divine right, is because she is the bloodline of King David. Whether that's true or not, doubt it. But they believe that, whether you like that or not. And whether you like it or not, these world wars, World War I, World War II, the Balfour Declaration, everything to create this Israel is all because of the Bible prophecy. So if you believe in the Bible or not, it doesn't matter. The powers that be, whoever's doing this shit in the world, 9/11, everything's linked to this. Everything's linked to the Bible. Whether you like it or not, whether you're a Christian, a Muslim, whatever, it's not that the book's telling prophecy, it's that the people that control the world are following the book. It's like the New Testament was left as an instruction manual to these European ruling families that we mistakenly we call Jews, but I think all Europeans could have a piece of Jew in them if they've not mixed too much with the other nations around, because that's the thing. I think that's why the tribe of Joseph are the chosen ones, the chosen tribe, the chosen people, because they kept within each other. And the Scots were like that. The Scots kept within it. Even when the Romans came, they just built Hadrian's Wall to keep the Scots out. But was it just to keep us in? So we never got exposed to the Italians and the Africans and all these different races that the Romans brought over. We kept within our own. We interbred. Obviously, like one clan chieftain would take his daughter to the other clan, and it would make a bond and peace and blah blah blah. But it was still interbreeding in a way. So I think that the Scots are purer than the rest of Britain when it comes to bloodline. We're not even. It's impossible for everyone to be pure. There's going to be foreigners jumping in your family tree. Your family tree is like, if you think about it, you've got your mum and your dad and their mums and dads, and if you go back 2,000 years, you've got probably at the bottom of your family tree like millions of people. So who's saying that? Again, like, none of us are pure. If any of us were purebred, we'd be probably retarded. In a way, we have to interbreed to keep evolving, I suppose, because it seems to be that you devolve when you interbreed. It doesn't look like it benefits you in any way. All it does is keep the bloodline strong, which, by the looks of nature, isn't always the best. But there's a definite connection between the Scots and the Jews, apparently. And I can't avoid it. It's in your face all the time. Even in Hollywood, when you look at Hollywood and you see certain like Jewish celebrities in Hollywood, unless they marry another Jew, they'll marry like a Mick, like someone with Celtic heritage. And a lot of the presidents in America, they've been Scotch-Irish descendants and British. I think George Washington was actually a British president of America. I think there was 4 Brits that ruled America, because America, I don't think it was established as a country at that time when George Washington, I think he was the first president, but he wasn't an American, like born American, because he was British, or I think he was born in West Virginia or something. Anyway, doesn't matter. My point is that these British European bloodlines are in America as well. It's not just in Europe. This bloodline is in America as well. These bloodlines. And although the Americans think that they're this free, it's the illusion of freedom. Scotland's got the same. We've got this illusion of freedom. It's to pacify you. Like, like pretend that they're free and they'll feel free, but we're not really. None of us are really free. America have got one of the biggest illusions of freedom, I think. But they've got the bloodline as well, and it seems that it was forced. And it's in Scotland. We had the Crofters. The Crofters got like the Highland clearances. In Scotland, there was these like the lords were just clearing out the Scots, and the Scots were practically homeless. They were clearing them for sheep, and they got put on boats and taken over to America. Same with the potato famine in Ireland. It seemed like these things were deliberately created to get the bloodlines to the four corners of the world to fulfill Bible prophecy. Because I think in the Bible it says that this ruling people would rule the four corners of the world. And look, we're in America, we're in Australia, we're in Canada, we're in South Africa. We've got the four corners of the world. And a lot of people, I've heard a lot of theories about Africans being the real Israelites and stuff like that, and I would believe that if they were ruling the four corners of the world. They were the most powerful nation. They were this, but they're not. They're not for some reason. I know that there's a lot of Ethiopian, because there was meant to be a connection with Ethiopia, and guys, like I say, I'm not a massive Bible scholar, but I know there's meant to be Ethiopian Jews and stuff like that. So I wouldn't rule out black Jews or Israelites, or whether they interbred with whoever. I'm not ruling that out. But what I'm saying is that according to the Bible, the God will bless these people, and they will hold the four corners of the world, and they will rule it. They'll rule it, and they'll rule everything. And we are. There's no doubt about it. We're sitting here with a comfy internet where there's other countries getting blown away in the Middle East. Why is the countries getting blown in the Middle East? Well, have a look at the Bible, guys. Why is Syria getting wrecked right now? Well, maybe because the Assyrians were the ones that they were the ones that practically conquered the Middle East to get rid of the Jews and the Exodus and all this stuff. So it's crazy. It's like it seems to be ignorance to call a Jew now. I think it's a lot more complex, guys, than a Jew just being a Jew. I think we've all got a little Jew in us. We just don't know it. I think we've all got a little bit of these tribes maybe in us. And I think the Celtics and the Celts could have been a part of these tribes, because even there's so many connections. Anyway, guys, I'll have a wee quick look at chat, and then I'll go to my screen shares and show you a few things that I've just noticed. Quite fascinating stuff. Right. George Washington was Anglo-Saxon. He was a descendant of Hengist, says Robin Poe. Brandy Cook, I've never been free. Orphan Red, Delise, hello there. Amanda, I'll just call her Amanda. Wow, Delise, congrats. Victoria Sarton, praise God, Delise. Amanda, hello, Sasha. Angel Raven, I thought he was studying media, not humanities. Orphan Red, smiley face. Delise, 100% Jesus is all the way truth and the life. I'm definitely saved. Victoria Sarton, hey, Sasha. Delise, I don't even have a doubt about that. Robin Poe, one of my ancestors was one of the lost children of the clearance. He ended up in the Boston area. Brandy Cook, not the bloodlines, the slaves. Victoria Sarton. Sasha, what field is your degree? Orphan Red. Victoria, I never tell. Teehee. Wink. Victoria Sarton, absolutely, Delise. Delise, when you get saved, something changes in you. I wish I could explain it to people. Delise, it's something supernatural for sure. Brandon, thank you. Robin Poe, the Ethiopian Jews are descendants of Judah and Benjamin. Amanda, it is amazing, Delise. Delise, smiley face. Eric Walker, the European Jew are descendants of Japheth. This is what I'm going to go through soon, guys. I'm going to have a wee look at these different sort of tribes. Danish were from the tribe of Dan. You're right, Poe. I've seen that. And the Danube River was meant to be from the tribe of Dan. The tribe of Dan were meant to have lived near the Danube River. Danes Danish, the tribe of Dan. So the Danish, and that goes down to the Vikings again. It's crazy. It's crazy, guys. So I think we need to stop this Jew hating and understand what the hell, what's going on here, and could there be a little bit of Jew in all us? Are Europeans just Jews? Because at the end of the day, they say that Jews rule the world, but you look at the American presidents, again, to me, there's never been a Jewish American president. There's always been Scotch-Irish, British descended. Well, we can even have a look at them later. But even the American presidents, they're all like, I'm sure that George Bush is related to the Queen, the 13th cousin of the Queen, George Bush. I think most American politicians can trace their roots down to one English royal member. So the illusion of a free republic in America, I think, is just a European royal family dressed up in suits instead of thrones and crowns. To be honest with you guys, I think in America, you are just being ruled the same way. Canada and Australia, they kind of accepted the Queen's rule for a wee while. They're kind of edging away from it now. But what's the scary? This is a scary thing. This is when I look at the Bible. It says when the people of Joseph wake up, when they realize their lost heritage, so that these lost tribes, over the years have lost their heritage. They don't know who they are, and apparently when the Revelations, all the tribes are going to wake up to their true identity and go back to the promised land, and then that's meant to be end of times. So I hope this isn't true, because I look forward to living a long time, but I think there's a lot more to this than meets the eye, guys. Robin Poe, I am a descendant of the kings of Scotland. Laurie Gill, you start with season 1 though, it's on Netflix. Robin, that's quite interesting. I have a lot of research to my ancestry. Eric Walker, the Khazars converted to Judaism. David Sawyer, the Bible is composed from a lot of Aryan mythology along with Hinduism as well. Laurie Gill, check out Vikings. Yep. Laurie Gill, I think the Vikings were just another form of the Celts. What we call Celts, I look at Viking art, it's similar to Celtic art. Hiya Brandon Cook, how you doing? I have to say I agree with Jed on this topic, says Timaeus. Well, it's about time we agreed on something, Timaeus. Right. Well, I'll have a wee screen share and we'll have a look at a couple of things that make me like suspiciously how the Scots, the British, and that's another thing, the Britain, and the Union Jack. Apparently, the Union Jack is United Jacob, the United Tribes of Jacob. That's where the word United Jack comes from. And Britain as well is meant to be men of the covenant. It's actually a Hebrew word, Brit. And I think it's men or something like that. It's meant to be the men of the covenant. So I think, and there's another thing here as well that I found. It was, this is interesting. This is really interesting. Before, there was an Irish church. Apparently, one of the first churches of Christianity was an Irish church. This is crazy, guys, I know. But we'll have a look at it, and I don't know. Maybe the first Christianity started in the west of Europe and spread through, and then got knocked back again and whatever. Maybe it did. Maybe the stories that I think all these names, it's confusing, guys. But there's something not right. There's something not right with a bunch of white guys in the Bible are in the Middle East, with ginger-haired guys as well. let's get real here, people. Most Middle Easterns aren't ginger-haired. It's a rare genetic. It's only 2% of the world or something that have got red hair, or 4% or something like that. It's really low. And there's a lot of characters in the Bible who have red hair. And they have got that ginger gene. And this ginger gene, guys, it doesn't just pop up in the Middle East, because this ginger gene is a mutation over time because of the cold. So whoever these ginger people were in the Middle East, their origins began in the West or Northern Europe. There's no way that ginger people just appear in the Middle East. These ginger people have like traveled, like the disciples, they've spread the word, like the Templars. Maybe it's something to do with the Knights Templar. Anyway, I'll get back to the presentation, people. Hope you are having a good night. 17 people. Right, I'll just share my entire screen. To infinity and beyond. Right, guys, we'll see if... What's happened here? What happened there? Right, try that again. Screen share. For fuck's sake, why is it doing that infinity thing? Is it doing that on the... No. Right, can you see that all right? The fuck? Right, anyway, guys. Hope everyone's seen this properly and it's not doing that stupid infinity screen. And this is about the Irish and Scottish genealogy. This is a link, Israel elect or something, Church of True Israel, Imahissar Imarishkot, HTML. So this is just the source, guys. I don't know, but I found this really interesting. This is Irish and Scottish genealogy, and I'll just read it out to you because it's a bit small. Many have heard and are familiar with the terms Irish and Scottish and really don't know the difference between the two. The Irish and Scots are really the same people, except they arrived in Britain 2,000 years apart. The ancestors of the Irish arrived in Britain around 1600 BC, while the Scots arrived about 501 AD. It is simply amazing that two groups of the same people would wander through the earth and end up locating within a few miles of each other 2,000 years later in Britain. Because there are two different groups of the same people concerned here, we will have to treat them separately even though they came from the same family. We will first investigate the background of the Irish. The Irish are a very ancient people and their history covers a large span of time. If we will take the time to do a little arithmetic, we will soon see we are talking about approximately 3,500 years or better, with the United States being 223 years old, 1999. Eh? You can see that Irish history is about 18 times old as we are, when one considers all the things that have happened since 1776. It's staggering to imagine what has happened to the Irish people over a period of 3,500 years. It all started when a very grand lady by the name of Tamar had twin boys by her father-in-law. A lot of people judge Tamar as a woman with a low moral reputation. This is because they don't know all the details of this complicated story. In the birthing process, it appeared that the one twin, Zerah, was going to be born first as he put out his hand. The midwife put a scarlet thread around his hand to mark the firstborn child. I think this is where they get the hand of Ulster from. The Ulsterman, when you see the red hand of Ulster, the midwife put a scarlet thread around the hand. And when you see the red hand in Ulster, Ireland, I think that's where it comes from. To the midwife's amazement, the other twin, Phares, proceeded to come out first. It was always of the utmost importance to identify the firstborn in the case of twins, for the firstborn received the birthright. Today, the Scots and the Irish claim the emblem of the wand with the scarlet thread or the red hand, showing they are the Zerah branch of Judah. To bring you this 3,500-year-old history, I will be quoting from various authors who have written various phases of this history. If you will remember, Judah, and I am not talking about Jews, was to be the royal tribe. Genesis 4:9, 9:12. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down, he couched as a lion, and as an old lion. Who shall rouse him up? 10. The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be. That sounded like kingdom come, and now will be done. It felt the same as what's coming out of my mouth there. Sorry, guys. Binding his foal unto the vine, and his ass's colt unto the choice vine. He washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes. 12. His eyes shall be red with wine, and his teeth white with milk. With this passage, we can already see more symbology of Judah appearing. To get started with this almost forgotten history of the Irish as being Zerah Judah, I will quote from Father Abraham's Children by Perry Edward Powell, PhD, pages 98 to 101. Let us put it a different way. Here is the beginning of royalty. What else does the scepter mean? Judah led in the conquest of Canaan and received the first and choicest portion. David raised it to preeminence over the tribes and the nations. He is the first king of the Judah-Phares line, and he did not appear for 700 years. Was there and is there an older line of royalty? The answer is yes. The Judah-Zerah line was royal from the beginning. The two royalties are now merged and have been for centuries in the British royal house. And how long shall we have royalty? Until Shiloh comes, the future. Shiloh came to Bethlehem, the first advent, and will come again as Shiloh at the end of time. The second advent. Royalty is eternal. The throne of David is everlasting. There is no royalty in Europe, but descends from Judah. And the Judah-Zerah royalty is, we repeat, 700 years older than Judah-Phares, because it began at once. You can read Genesis 38 to see how royalty began, but there's much more to talk about. Another great event is recorded in Genesis 46:12, if we dare mention it. Here we can read the census of those of the family of Jacob who went with him into Egypt, eventually into Egyptian bondage, though they did not know it at the time. Phares took with him 2 sons, which did not include Shelah. Now Zerah went alone. No son accompanied him. We will see where the son later travelled. Here is an inference and the conclusion. The Trojan Welsh bypassed the Egyptian captivity and all other captivities, and we have never been in slavery to any man in any land at any time. Slight changes or additions in brackets above. Zerah's son, Ethan, very wise, and indeed this line of Judah Zerah is the only royal line termed wise, on the other hand, led his people north from Egypt, where he was born, into what is now Asia Minor, and his son Mahol continued likewise. Mahol's heir, Darda, reached the western shore, where on a commanding site he founded the metropolis of Troy. The date is 1520 BC. Here the city flourished for nearly 400 years. Darda first saw the straits that separated Europe and Asia and gave them his name, Dardanelles. Darda also founded a fort here that is named after him, but the greatest honour is recorded in the Bible. Solomon was wiser than all men, than Darda the son of Mahol. Thus, great was the founder of Troy, and the sire of the Trojan race, whose children abide with us still. Troy fell because her sons had an eye for the refined and beautiful in women. Her descendants have that exquisite eye still, and are naturally very proud of the accomplishment. When Troy fell, she did so to arise on another shore in eternal and imperial splendour. I am not referring to Italy. That empire, though long and imperial, short-lived, Italy is an interlude only. Aeneas, a member of the old royal family, attained the kingship, led the saddened Trojans around the Mediterranean Sea, as graphically described in the Aeneid, and finally brought them to their new home on the Tiber in Italy. Including his Italian interlude, the Trojan period embraced 417 years. Here on the Tiber happened a very sad event, too sad to be recalled, and would not accept for its denouement final outcome. Brutus was one day hunting with his father Silvius when he spied the prey. As he thought, he let fly an arrow. On running up, he was shocked and grieved to find that he had killed his own father. Some people then, as now, were censorious, and Brutus departed from the new colony, which later sprang Rome, and with his royal followers went to Greece, rallied the enslaved Trojans, defeated King Pendrasus, thus erasing the defeat of Troy, and as victor exacted these terms: he must give his daughter Egnog for wife, furnish a big fleet of ships fully provisioned for his immigrant force of 7,000 men, and free permission for them to sail unmolested. Brutus, now with an object and direction, steered west through the straits, Pillars of Hercules, then northwards along the Atlantic main across the English Channel to the present river Dart, and up its stream to Totnes, where stepping on a large stone he landed on the great island which was ever to bear his name as a memorial among the proud nations of the world. This rock, more famous throughout the centuries than Plymouth Rock, is marked as Brutus Rock, and has been visited perennially by people of all nations, all ranks, and all ages. With his people he explored the whole island, and he apportioned to each one according to his rank and services. At last he decided the proper place for his capital, a choice of the Thames River, so named for a stream, Tyamis in Epirus, for which he first sailed, and there he built his metropolis, and according to the advice of the oracle, he named it Tri Novantum, New Troy. This name it bore for over 1100 years, when King Lud, at the beginning of the Christian era, built her walls and renamed her Ludden. Lud's wall, easily refined into London. London is also derived from Landon, meaning sacred eminence. London dates from 350 years before Rome. Why Rome be called the Eternal City? If you are of Irish or Scottish descent, this history, as told here, may seem strange and wonderfully astonishing. I'm sure many of you have never heard anything quite like this, or were never taught anything remotely comparable in school. We shouldn't really take the word of one writer concerning this history, though. In the booklet, Our Neglected Heritage, The Magnet of the Isles by Gladys Taylor, Volume 3, page 27, we read this. The Reverend William Milner, in his chart of the Royal House of Britain, gives the two grandsons of Judah, Calcol and Darda, as Cercops and Dardanos. The more we study the classical references to these founders of cities, dynasties, and legal systems, the more they appear to resemble Calcol and Darda, who were the children of Zara a migrating section of the family of Judah, the scepter tribe, were the grandsons of Judah beginning to put into effect the responsibilities of the tribe as kings and administrators. After the fall of Troy, the royal house of Dardanos was divided and scattered. Caesar claimed descent from Aeneas and Virgo, wrote the Aeneid to proclaim this fact. From Ascanius Julius, son of Aeneas, and Creusa, daughter of Priam, king of Troy, came the Julian family of Rome, and also Brutus the Trojan, grandson of Ascanius, who gathered together a band of Trojans exiled soon after the fall of Troy and travelled westward to Britain. This could have been a considerable migration from a wealth of Greek and Latin literature dealing with the departure of Trojans, notably the Trojan cycle listed by Proclus in the 2nd century AD. We gather that Aeneas departed the Mount Ida with 88,000 Trojans and built a fleet of 332 vessels. That's an interesting, 332. We leave Aeneas in Italy and follow Brutus and his companions in Britain. What this information is telling you is, if you are Irish, you're directly related to the Trojans, or if you're Scottish, you are indirectly related. And both the Irish and Scottish are direct descendants of Judah, or Israelites. And what may seem more astounding, the so-called Jews are not now, nor ever were, Israelites. They're actually descendants of Cain, the murderer. So I don't understand. These are the parts that I don't understand. Like, that's what got me thinking about the Esau part of it. Like, everyone always focuses on Jacob and Isaac and that line, but everyone forgets that Esau, he was the first. He was meant to be the first line, and he gave up his lineage for a bowl of stew. Esau was red-haired, ginger. So, is there a grudge between? Is there like hidden tribes of these Esau? I don't know. But this, what I'm reading, you guys, this doesn't represent my facts or represent me. I'm just reading what I've discovered. I hope it's not too boring, people. Long before there was either a Protestant or Roman Catholic church, there existed an Irish church. This is a true story which very few have any knowledge of today. The fact of its existence have been almost totally erased from history, although almost forgotten by those who be concerned the most. There is substantial evidence extant to prove its existence beyond all doubt. Actually, the Irish Church was established in 37 AD. To have an understanding of the Irish Church is an all-important fact in understanding Irish genealogy. To get started with this phase of our study, I'm going to quote again from the book Father Abraham's Children by Perry Edward Powell, PhD, pages 140, 142. Now we come to the missionary movement of Joseph Arimathea, who was appointed by Philip the Apostle. After the passion of his nephew, persecution fell heavily upon the infant church. The Jew and the Roman were bitter persecutors, but he knew there was no persecution, but protection. However, he was seized, and since the Jew could not kill under the law directly, he and Lazarus and Mary and Martha, his sisters, Mary Magdalene, Marcella, Maxim, and others, all objects of special Jewish hostility, were exposed to the sea in a vessel without sails or oars. They drifted to Marseille, South Gaul, where they arrived in famished condition. The Arimathean knew the territory and friendly traders and was aided on his way, the destination of which was now Britain. Here they eventually arrived and came to rest in Innis, Avalon, Glastonbury, where he rested and soon began his labours for his nephew. The year was 37 AD. On his tomb is the epitaph Ad Britannos veni post Christum sepelevi, docu quaevi. I came to the Britons after I buried the Christ. I thought I have entered on my rest. Thus was established the first above-ground church in the world at Glastonbury in Britain. I'm sure there are many who have never heard this particular story of Joseph of Arimathea, and few yet understand its importance. For more insight on Joseph of Arimathea, I will quote the Traditions of Glastonbury by E. Raymond, Captain M.A., page 22. Several ancient manuscripts indicate that the Passion of Christ, Joseph of Arimathea, was commissioned by St. Philip the Apostle to take the gospel to Britain. One such manuscript is the Victory of Aurelius Ambrosius by Gildas Albicanicus. It asserts plainly that Britain received the gospel in the time of Emperor Tiberius, and that Joseph was sent with others after the dispersion of the disciples to Britain by St. Philip. There, Joseph was to lay the foundation of the Christian religion. The author gives a date about the year of our Lord, 63, and adds that Joseph stayed in Britain the rest of his life. Another manuscript, the Antiquities of Glastonbury, 1908, contains his entry in the opening chapter. St. Philip, coming into the country of the Franks to preach, converted to the faith and baptized them, working to spread Christ's word. He chose 12 from among his disciples and sent them to Britain. The leader, it was said, was St. Philip, dearest friend, Joseph of Arimathea, who buried the Lord. Translated from De Antiquit Glastonbuenus Ecclesia, 1240. We can see from this that outside of a few at Jerusalem, the gospel was first preached in Britain. This brings up one of the most misunderstood, one of the most misrepresented, and one of the most misquoted passages of Scripture in the Bible. Almost everyone understands it or has a twisted conception of its meaning. The Scripture is Romans 1:16, which reads, King James Version, "For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God unto salvation to everyone that believeth, to the Jew first and also to the Greek." It's not talking about the Canaanite Jews here. It's speaking of the Judites in Britain, and they got the gospel message first, just as it says. It should say, to the tribe of Judah in Jerusalem and in Britain first, and also the Greek, and they were all Israelites. And nothing but Israelites. It was as though Judah and Britain and the gospel message was sent all the other Israelite tribes. The few of Judah at Jerusalem at this time are hardly worth mentioning. For more documentation, we can turn to the book of St. Joseph of Arimathea at Glastonbury by Lionel Smitheth Lewis, pages 92 to 93. Cardinal Boreanus, the great church historian and most learned librarian of the Vatican, in his Ecclesiastical Annals, on which he spent 30 years under the year AD 35, states that in the year Joseph of Arimathea, Lazarus, Mary, Martha, Marcella, their maid, and Maximin, blind from birth until healed by Joshua, a disciple, were put up by the Jews onto a boat without sails and oars and floated down the Mediterranean and landed at Marseilles, and hence Joseph and his company crossed into Britain and preached the gospel there and finally died there. So I'm going to read this part. I'm going to take a wee break, a wee cup of coffee, come back. And if you are still interested, guys, I've got plenty more. I've got plenty more. I don't know if I should read you all of this, but it's worth bearing in mind, I suppose. Right, I'll read this. The first Irish Kildee church almost dies out. In the book of St. Joseph of Arimathea at Glastonbury by Lionel Smitheth Lewis, it says this of King Lucius. St. Joseph's little circle of 12 disciples was kept going by anchorites, hermits. As one died, another was appointed, but the course of time, a certain slackness seemed to have come over them. William of Malmesbury tells us that the holy spot at length became a covert of wild beasts. Then in the days of good King Lucius aforesaid came a revival. Lerug Moir, Lerug the Great, grandson of St. Silenus and great-grandson of Caractacus, that sounds really Welsh, that, nicknamed Liver Moir of the Great Luminary, hence his Latinized name of Lux or Lucius, was king of Britain in the middle and towards the end of the 2nd century. He increased the light that the first missionaries, the disciples of Christ, had brought by, sending missionaries to Eleutherius, Bishop of Rome, requesting him to send missionaries to Britain. The Welsh triads tell us that the Eleutherius, in response, sent Dyphon and Fagin, Medwin and Elphin, all of the British names in AD 167. That's weird that I've got a friend called Alan Fagan. Actually, the Bishop of Rome, spoken of here at this time, was a British church at Rome, Basilica de Pudenziana, from where King Lucius received missionaries. British King Caractacus' daughter Claudia married Pudens of Tim, 421, of all whom he converted by the influence of the Irish-British Church, of which the Apostle Paul had direct contact. It is obvious that the entire history of Britain cannot be presented in this format. Therefore, I will give a general outline during this period. So we have here BC 55, invasion of Britain by Rome under Julius Caesar. AD 37, Joseph of Arimathea establishes first above-ground church in the world at Glastonbury in Britain. Which, this is crazy stuff, guys. I'd never heard of this before I'd come across this whole Irish, Celtic, Jewish connection. And then all these other things started popping up. And maybe that's why there's such a big chunk missing in our history. Because maybe there was original Christians and they've been beaten down and hidden. I don't know, guys. I don't know. This is all, to me, this is still all I'm not going to argue with people about this. This is me just presenting what I've discovered. I'm not going to debate about the Bible and what's written in the Bible and if it's real, if it's metaphor, if it's literal. I'm just presenting to you what I've found, and it's what's got me thinking myself. So it's a lot of it is speculation, obviously, guys. But when you look at the things around the world today and look at it, all just seems to piece together. Right, anyway, Edict of Emperor Cordulus to exterminate Christian Britain. This was AD 43. Edict of Emperor Claudius to exterminate Christian Britain. AD 52, Caractacus taken prisoner to Rome along with Bran, his 3 sons and daughters, including Linus and Claudia of Tim. Pardons and Claudia, Gladys of Tim, marry. This is in AD 53. AD 60, the Bodician War. AD 156, good King Lucius by edict proclaims Britain the first Christian nation. This is AD 156. AD 290-300, the Dolitian persecution. AD 306, at Britain at his father's death, Constantine declares himself Emperor of Rome. AD 411, Rome withdraws troops from Britain. AD 449, Anglo-Saxon Jutes invade Britain for the next 2 centuries, driving the British Chaldee Celts to the extreme west. We read the next sequel from The Origin and Early Christianity in Britain by Andrew Gray, DD, pages 60 to 62. So, aye. It's nearly finished, guys. The British Church almost fades from view. Right, I'm going to get a quick coffee. If you are still there, I'm not looking at chat now, but if you are still there, thanks for sort of hanging in there. But this is interesting. This is really, really interesting to me. I didn't know about you, but this is really fascinating stuff. If any of it's got any truth to it, it's really interesting. Thanks to everybody in chat. I'll give everyone a shout. Timaeus, Brandon Cook, Delise, Robin Poe, Amanda, Victoria, Sartan, E flat, Orphan Red, Flat Earth is all about East and West, stupid. Angel Raven. Right, we're back in 5 minutes, guys. All right, Tau Zeta Alpha. How you doing, Paul? I'll be back in 5 minutes. Right, what am I doing wrong here to get that? Right, everyone, I hope you're having a good night. And I hope this is not too much a boring subject, but something that interests me. If you're into your conspiracies and stuff like that, 9/11, Revelations, all these different things, that you've got to have some interest in the Bible and where it came from. And but there's a few other connections I've noticed, like the language, the Gaelic language, and the Welsh Gaelic. There seems to be a connection with Hebrew. That's another one. Red hair. Red hair that for some reason Jews have been known to have red hair, which isn't a Middle Eastern trait. It's obviously a European trait. And what I'm showing you tonight, guys, isn't my beliefs. I'm just showing you an alternative view to think about. If you want to go and look and research deeper into it and see if there is, because I think there's too many similarities. There's too many coincidences. Elongated skulls are interested. Right. So we were at the British Church. Celtic Church almost fades from view. Now we're at the British Celtic Church rebounds to life. It says here that the Celtic Church was finally driven to the extreme west of the region because of the 200 years of Saxon invasions. The Saxons were, by this time, in possession of over 75% of the land. It appeared again the light might flicker and finally go out on the church, which was started by Joseph of Arimathea. But suddenly the light covered to shine even brighter. For this part of the story, I will quote from a secular source of history, The Story of Civilization, part, is that 6? The Age of Faith, by Will Durant, page 532. As Germanic invasions of Gaul and Britain have driven scholars from those lands to Ireland, so now we have returned. The debt was paid. Irish missionaries flung themselves upon the victorious pagan Angles, Saxons, Norwegians, and Danes in England, and upon the illiterate and half-barbarous Christians of Gaul and Germany. With the Bible in one hand and classic manuscripts in the other, and for a time it seemed that the Celts would win back through Christianity the lands they had lost to force. It was in the Dark Ages that the Irish spirit shone with its strongest light. The greatest of these missionaries was St. Columba. We know him well through the biography written c. 679 by Adaman, one of his successors at Iona. Columba was born at Donegal in 521 of royal stock. He was a saint who could have been a king. At school in Moville, he showed such devotion that his schoolmaster named him Columcille, column of the church. From the age of 25, he founded a number of churches and monasteries, of which the most famous were at Derry, Durrow, and Kells. But he was a fighter as well as a saint, a man of powerful frame and mighty voice. His hot temper drew him into many quarrels, at last into war with King Darmuid. A battle was fought in which, we are told, 5,000 men were killed. Columba, though victorious, fled from Ireland, resolved to convert as many souls as had fallen in the engagement at Culdrevna. He now founded on the Isle of Iona off the west coast of Scotland, one of the most illustrious of medieval monasteries. Thence he and his disciples brought the gospel to the Hebrides, Scotland, and northern England, and there, after converting thousands of pagans and illuminating 300 noble books, he died in prayer at the altar in his 78th year. That's quite an old age for a dude back then. I'm wearing the mic around my head tonight, guys. I know that when I wear it around my neck, it gets a lot of interference, but I can't drink coffee and smoke when I've got this stupid thing. Holy shit. Right. Then enters Augustine. You will notice in the last paragraph above, the Celtic missionaries converted northern Saxons in England, but not the southern Saxons, to convey the story of how they were converted to Roman Catholicism. I will relate the story from the book The Horizon History of Christianity by Roland H. Baton, pages 142-143. Augustine commenced in Kent under the favour of Queen Bertha, a Christian queen, Merovingian French princess, obviously a British Celtic convert. Eager to convert her pagan husband, King Ethelbert was willing to grant Augustine an audience, but only out of doors, where Augustine would be less able to exercise what the king supposed were magical powers. For he was reputed to be able to make his tails grow on the back of those whom he was displeased. The king was so far persuaded that he granted land for the foundation of a monastery at Canterbury, ever after to be at the seat of the English primate. The reason today we are so unaware of the fact that the British Church was the true church established by Joseph of Arimathea by the direction of St. Philip is because most of all the records have been destroyed. There have been enough records to survive, though, to establish beyond all doubt that the Church of Britain, not to be confused with the present-day Anglican Church of England, was the true church before being Romanized. For this reason, most everyone has assumed that the true church was a Roman Catholic Church, which is entirely false. Neither the Roman Catholic Church nor her Protestant daughters represent the true establishment by our Messiah. There was a church established at Rome, and Linus, son of Caractacus, was appointed by the Apostle Paul to be the first bishop, and it was not related in any way to the Roman Catholic Church ever. It was called Basilica de Pudenzia. Penduziana, also the Palace of the British. I will quote from The Drama of the Lost Disciples concerning this true British church at Rome by George F. Jowett, page 125. The church still stands and can be seen in what was once the palatial grounds of the Palatinum Britannicum, a memorial to the Christianizing endeavours of St. Paul and the expatriate exiled royal British family at Rome with Rufus Pudens. The church is recorded in Roman history under the 4 different names. 1. Palatium Britannicum. 2. Titulus. 3. Hospitum Apostolorum. 4. Lastly, as St. Bentiana, in honour and the memory of the matron daughter of Claudia Pudens, by which the name is known to this day. Interesting stuff, guys. Interesting stuff. So, did it all start in Britain? Did Christianity begin in Britain? Or did it spread to Britain and then came back again? Or what? Interesting stuff. King Henry II sold out to the Celtic Church to Rome. For this information, I'm going to quote from the book The Origin and the Early History of Christianity in Britain by Andrew Gray, DD, pages 88-89. It will be seen that the transaction on the part of Roman Pontiff at least was a most deliberate and carefully calculated kind. It is a little marvellous that Romanists of today in Ireland are so ill at ease under English rule. Henry, under various pretexts, with the sanction and approval of the Pope, took his armies to Ireland. The Irish chiefs, taken singly, soon submitted to him and paid him homage. The bishops agreed to an elastical union with the Church of England. Then Henry, to suit his own ends, handed over the Irish Church to the Pope of Rome. By these unwarranted acts, schism was introduced. Bishops and priests were appointed by the order of the Pope. A few of the bishops still continued to assert an independent position and offered here and there a spasmodic resistance, but the independence of the Celtic Church was gone. She had been betrayed by the King of England and the Pope of Rome. Irish national independence and Irish ecclesiastical independence terminated practically together, and in both cases by fraud and grasping usurpation. The fate was sealed when Gelasius, Archbishop of Armagh, visited Dublin in 1172 and made his formal submission to King Henry II. From this date to the Reformation, the papacy held sway, and the history of the 350 years which followed the Synod of Cashel, when Irish Church agreed to an elastical union with the English, is indeed a dreary one. So that's pretty interesting. Roman Catholicism sits on a fallacious foundation. For information pertaining to the donation of Constantine, I will quote from The Horizon History of Christianity by Roland H. Bainton. We do find skepticism of a sort in the form of historical criticism used to expose the spurious of famous forgeries and to examine the sacred documents critically. Historical criticism was a byproduct of studies by humanists whose profound interest in the antique encouraged a pure Latin style. Through their comparison of classical and medieval Latin, there arose an awareness of philological study in literature and linguistic development. The donation of Constantine, upon which the papacy long based its claim to dominion, was exposed as a forgery by Lorenzo Valla. The language, he pointed out, was not that of the age of Constantine. In the document, there was references to the iconoclastic controversy of the 8th century. Documents of the period of Constantine never once mentioned the donation, and at no time during the emperor's reign did the popes actually exercise the authority Constantine was supposed to have bestowed upon them. Valla disapproved also the common assumption that the Apostles' Creed was the work of the 12 apostles. More daring was his application of historical critical methods to the study of the Bible, even though he came up with no startling conclusions. As far as the church was concerned, Vala's demonstrations were not specially disturbing. She could survive the exposure of forgery. See also The Story of Civilizations, The Age of Faith by Will Durant. So that's that. So that kind of leads me to the whole kind of Christian, Judaism sort of intertwined, Celts and Europeans, Jews, all this is intertwined. They're all just the same people. Are the European royal families direct descendants of these tribes? And the peoples that they ruled over, were they also descendants, but because they mixed and mixed and mixed, they lost their sort of lineage, while the royals kept it in the blood. So I don't think it's whether you're a Jew or not, it's whether you're inbred enough, I think. If your tribe's been kept intact. And like I said, Scotland was quite, it was known as the edge of the world to the Romans. Not a lot of people like to wander into Scotland, so Scotland's quite... Scotland's kept its sort of people. The coronation stone, right, guys? This is also known as the Stone of Scone in Scotland, and it kind of goes back to the Bible again. This is the Stone of Scone. Is one of the most prized possessions in the British possession. It's one of the most prized things, and it's a slab, but it's meant to be. I think it's meant to be the stone that Jacob fell asleep on, and saw the Jacob's ladder, whatever it was, the angels going up and down, to the heavens. So every royal member of Scotland and England has been anointed under this, well, above the stone. The stone's put under the throne. So this stone's like really important, and it's linked again to the Bible. And you can say it's a load of bullshit, fair enough. You can say it's a load of bullshit. It could be all just be made up stories. But why does this queen why does every royal family member have to be anointed with this stone underneath the throne? It's obviously got great importance. A lot of people like to put importance into shiny things, gold things, silver things, jewels, but a simple slab of granite or whatever it is can be one of the most precious. Right, anyway, I'll give you a wee. The Coronation Stone, Westminster Abbey, London. The ancients once said that until time came when there should be not a day and light in the season, loosely translated, until the sun and moon would no longer be in the sky, no more day, no more night as we know it. Until that time, there would always be one to reign on the throne over enduring kingdom. Well, the sun came out again today, right? So where's the throne? In other words, where's the kingdom? The ancient teacher Ezekiel wrote in prophecy of this kingdom, and overturn, overturn, overturn it, and it shall no more overturn, until he comes whose right it is to reign. Ezekiel 21:27. 3 times the kingdoms would overturn, and then no more. By the way, it doesn't say that the stone of destiny would only be moved 3 times. It has had many resting places in its history. Wouldn't it be interesting if that ancient throne, that kingdom with its continuing legacy, was still hanging around today? So, guys, this stone of destiny, but it's called the Stone of Scone, Scone Palace in Scotland. And there's a lot of obviously there's videos about it. I'll not go through the videos. I'll just read you the brief. Well, the most enduring monarchy today is the British royal household, and though it seems arcane to our generation, it's history. In spite of the current royals who seems to be living up to a legacy no different than the past, consider Henry VIII and his umpteen wives, right? Has all the makings of a great and curious wonder, the enduring monarchy, not the wives, that is. Until recently, the most sacred relic, the Coronation Stone, reposed in St Edward's Chapel in Britain's sacred Abbey of Westminster, which has stirred men's imaginations for centuries. In Jacob's Pillar, E. Raymond Captain writes, Dean Stanley, one-time custodian of the stone, in his book Memorials of Westminster Abbey, sums up its historical importance in these words. It is the one primeval monument which binds together the whole empire. That's a powerful phrase for a piece of stone. That's the stone there, guys. It sits underneath all the thrones. Every king of Scotland was anointed on this. I think it could have originally came from Ireland. It came from Ireland, Scotland, and then Westminster took it. But I think Scotland got back. But I think it's a fake. I seen it. I seen this stone of Scone. It's in Edinburgh Castle. I've been to Edinburgh Castle to look at this stone. It's a pity because there's no photography. I wanted to take photos so I could scrutinise it closer. I've been to Roslin Chapel as well. Roslin Chapel, guys, if you like your Da Vinci Code, and that's something I've learned after reading like the Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons and was it the Missing Symbol or the Lost Symbol? These are almost cryptic. They're trying to tell you a story that the Bible's trying to tell you a story. It's the same thing, and it's funny because in the Da Vinci Code, at the end, what happens is that they find that the bloodline is it Jesus's bloodline is in Scotland or something, like the ancestors are living in Scotland. But that could be metaphor for the bloodline. These Jewish tribes are so-called. I think we'll even stop calling them Jewish. We'll just call them Israelites. Is this what the Da Vinci Code was trying to tell us, that these Israelites ended up in Scotland? That could be it. That could be the whole code. Anyway, a brief history of the Coronation Stone. In Ireland, the green flag, trad Irish tune. The Chronicles of Scotland, Hector Boas, translated into Scottish by... See, guys, this is where I come into play here. I'm quite good at my Scottish. When it comes to Latin and Greek and all this stuff, and I'm not really good at pronouncing, but I'm quite good at pronouncing Scottish words, so bear with me here. The Chronicles of Scotland, Hector Boas, translated into Scottish by John Bellenden, 1531, tells us, Gathelus, the ancestors of the Scots who came to Egypt In this time, Rang reigned. So Rang means reigned in Egypt. Pharaoh, ye scourge of ye people. So that means Pharaoh, like Egyptian Pharaoh, you're a scourge of the people of Israel, was given Scotta to wife. Scotta was a daughter of a Pharaoh. Lang time he landed in a part of Spain, call it Lizatan. So in this sentence here, he's saying long, that's what lang means, long time he landed. Landed means landed, like on a boat. In one part of Spain, that's in one part of Spain. Calit Lusatan. Calit means called it. Spain called Lusatan. So that's long time he landed in one part of Spain called Lusatan, later called Portugal. After this, he built the city of Brigantes and Calit his subjects, Scotus, in honour and affection of his wife. That means wife, that's his wife. Honour and affection, you see how it's spelt there. With peace, Gathalius sittand in his chair of marble within his city. That obviously means he sits in his chair of marble within the city. It's like his throne, the chair of marble. By the way, the name Scots is the same as the Hebrew word Succoth and carries the meaning wanderers. Scotland means land of the wanderers, but we're getting ahead of the story. Ancient Irish records, when referencing an Eastern king's daughter, also mentions an old man, a patriarch and prophet called Olam Fodla, Hebrew words that mean revealer or prophet, and his scribe Simon Brug, Brak, Breek, Barak, Berak. According to various spellings, reportedly they carried with them many ancient relics. Among these was a harp, an ark or chest, and a stone called in Gaelic Leafel, meaning stone of destiny. An ark or chest. Ooh, it sounds like the ark. Right. The Annals of the Kingdom of Ireland by the Four Masters speak of Tia Tepe, who married Eochad, the son of Scotti in Spain, and requested a choice hill as her dower, and whatever place she should select it, that she might be buried therein. She chose the hill Drumcain, i.e. Timher, in Ireland. And did you know Ireland is a derivative of an earlier name, Iverland or Iverain? New Iverain was once a colony settled by the militants from Spain on the Iberian Peninsula. Iber is the same name as the ancient Hebrew forefather Eber, a name found in Genesis. From hence comes this family, Hebrews. Well, enough of getting sidetracked. I've checked out too many old spine-crackling books from the Oviedo Library at California State University, Northridge. Too many books sitting on the shelf that, until I came along, had not been opened, except in previous years when the university was formerly named San Fernando Valley State College. I hope you go check it out, but let's get back to the story. The Humours of Whiskey, trad Irish tune. In the Chronicles of Eri by Milner, we find Eoclidin, the husband of Tia Tepe, associated with the stone Leafel. The account is titled The Story of Leafel and states in the early days it was carried out by priests on the march in the wilderness. Hence, the much worn rings still attached to it at each end. And I've seen that. I've seen the Stone of Destiny. It's got two big rings at the end. Obviously, these rings, a pole or something went through these rings when they carried it. Later, it was borne by the sea from east to west to the extremity of the world of the sun's going, an expression used by the Romans to describe Britain. There are many other variations of the story of the stone being brought from Egypt to Ireland, which then added together present us with a rather confused story. Each of these, written in a tongue difficult to translate, gives its own aspect of the one great story. However, they all agreed in the following. The stone, known as the Stone of Destiny, came from Spain, and therefore that from Egypt. It came in the company of an aged guardian who was called Olam Fola, Ikode, Eramon, with his queen Tia Tepe, was crowned King of Ireland upon the stone, which remained at the palace of Tíamhair Breag. It was the coronation stone of Evre Ard Rai, High King of Erian, for a period of about 1,040 years. Archaeological excavations on the mounds at Tara have also revealed that ancient Tara was not only the royal seat or capital of the Celtic kings that came from Spain, but was also the nerve centre of the country. 5 great arteries or roads radiated from Tara to the various parts of the country. Bards and epic poems extol the beauty and grandeur of Tara. The great Ollam Fodla, the daughter of the royalty, was built at Tara Hill. There's a wee image of it. I don't know if you've seen that image. Right, so we're moving on to Scotland, a bit of stony destiny. Scotland the Brave. About AD 500, some immigrants led by Fergus Mon MacEirc the Great from the Irish Gaelic kingdom of Dalriada invaded the western coast of Scotland, the land of the Picts. After invading Scotland and returning home victorious, the Scots confirmed the kingdom to him and his posterity by an oath. Fergus desired that he be crowned upon the stone. Andrew of Wintown, 1400 AD, in his ancient Chronicle of Scotland, gives the following account of the Stone of Destiny. A great stain this kine then had, that for this kines get war made, and Haldane were a great jewel. Within the Kirkine of Spain hail, the king bade his Simon ta, the stain and intega, a win that land and occupy, and held that stain perpetually, as every nae rick and man may see, brought the stain with it in Scotland. For a time, Dalriada appears to have been dependent upon Irish Dalriada. About 575 AD, Aidan, son of Gabrin, king of Dalriada, secured its independence and was crowned king of Scotland upon the stone Lefail. For this occasion, the stone was taken to Iona, a tiny island on the Inner Hebrides. Scotland, by St. Columba, was the missionary grandson of Fergus the Great. Iona is where Columba found his first Scottish monastery, and it was famous as a centre of Celtic Christianity, from where missionaries were dispatched from the conversion of the pagan tribes in Scotland and northern England. Aidan was crowned king of Scotland in coronation rite that has been used ever since by the succeeding monarchs of Scotland and England. On Iona, the stone Lefail continued to be used as the coronation stone of the Daldraic kings until his removal to Dunstafnage, on the mainland of Scotland just east of Iona. Tradition has it that the clan MacDougall was made custodian of the stone at Dunstafnage until its removal to Scone, Scotland. In 843 AD, Kenneth MacAlpine was crowned on the stone Lefail as the first king of the United Kingdom of the Picts and the Scots. One of the first acts as king was to found a church at Scone, near Perth, Scotland, because it was there that he gained his principal victory over the Picts. King Kenneth II had the stone placed on a wooden pedestal in the front of the high altar in the Abbey of Scone. The ancient Abbey of Scone was destroyed in 1559 AD at the time of the Reformation. Today, on Moot Hill stands a stone chapel marking the place where the Stone of Destiny had rested and where the kings of Scotland presided over the parliaments until Edward I of England removed the stone to Westminster Abbey in 1296 AD. England, God Save the Queen. John Harden, the English rhyming chronicler who wrote before AD 1465, said Edward's removal of the stone, and as he came home by Scone away, the regal there of Scotland, then he brought. He sent it forth to Westminster, for I to bend there yin a chire cleanly wrote, for mass priests to sit yin one hemot, which yet there stood beside the shrine in a chair of old time made full fine. British, Scotch and Irish records of the Stone of Destiny located at Tara, Ireland in circa 500 BC, from where it was transported to Scotland in circa AD 498 by Fergus the Great. From there it was taken to Iona circa AD 563, then to Dunstafnage. From then it was removed to Scone near Perth, Scotland. Finally it was moved by Edward I to Westminster Abbey, London. in 1296. Thus, from Tara to Westminster, covering over 18,000 years of history, 1800 years of history, it was never carried to any appreciable extent. The mere removal from these places could not account for the wearing away of the stone that was evident, caused by the friction of the pole used in its constant carrying. So you can see here they have some links. The vision of George Washington. So this stony destiny is another thing it's really linked in with the Bible in Scotland, Ireland. It's starting to look like that maybe Christianity started in the West. And this is just another article about just some stuff about how the Brits are. Let's see what these people are saying, this article. The word Celt is the anglicised form of the Greek word Keltoi, which means the people who are different. In Scripture, all nations except the 12 tribes of Israel were referred to as Gentiles, foreigners, so the only people who are different from are Israel. The word Celt is therefore another word for Israelite. The Celts are part of the 10 lost tribes of Israel, as are the Tumatha, Dedannan, and Milesians. The Irish people are a mixture of Celts, Danans, Milesians, Judah, Zerites of the Red Hand, Genesis, Danish, Vikings, and Norsemen are all racially cousins. Deuteronomy 14:2, for thou art an holy people unto the I Am, thy God, and thy Am hath chosen thee to peculiar people unto himself above all nations that are upon the earth. Special, different Oxford Dictionary. Genesis 38:28. And it came to pass when she travailed that the one put out his hand, and the midwife took about his hand a scarlet thread. We've seen this one before. That's how we know about the hand of Ulster. The red hand of Ulster. Therefore, the Celts, according to God, are Israelites. The Irish Celts held 3 sacred assemblies every year at Tara during Beltane, Luxtasac, and Samhain, which ensured the balance of corn and milk, freedom from conquest, and enjoyment of righteous laws, comfort in every house, fruit in great abundance, and plenty of fish in their lakes, rivers, and estuaries, exactly as God guaranteed Israel in the Torah Tara if they kept the covenant. Also, during the feast of the Tara Torah, the kings of Ireland used to settle their affairs of Ireland for 7 years, so that debts, suits, and adjustments used not to be submitted for judgment until the next feast. 7 years later, which the Torah calls the year of the I Ams, released, when all debts were forgiven every 7 years. This proves that the Irish Celtic law was based on the Torah and is further confirmation that the Celts are Israelites. At the end of every 7 years thou shouldst make a release, and this is the manner of the release. Every creditor that lendeth out unto his neighbour shall release it. He shall not exact it of his neighbour or of his brother, because it is called the I Am release. 3 times in a year shall all the males appear before the I Am, thy God, in the place which he shall choose, in the feast of the unleavened bread, and in the feast of the week, and in the feast of the tabernacles, and they shall not appear before I Am empty. Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessings of the I Am, the God which he hath given thee, corn, milk, fish, etc., etc. Judges and officers shall thou make thee in the gates which I Am, the God given thee, throughout the tribes, and they shall judge the people with just judgment. Thou shalt not pervert judgment, thou shalt not respect persons, neither take a gift, for a gift doth blind the eyes of the wise and pervert the words of the righteous. That which is totally just shall thou follow, that thou mayest live and inherit the land which the I Am thy God given thee. This is what we've mentioned before. Also, the word British is not English, it is Hebrew. Beret means covenant in Hebrew and Welsh. Ish means man or people of in Hebrew and English. Therefore, the British means the people of the covenant. In other words, the people, Israel of the covenant. The Irish people have rejected the English Davidic monarchy and its anti-covenant legislation, and that is good, very good. However, the Celtic Irish people are Israelites descended from Jacob, Israel's fifth of his 12 sons, who was called Dan, and fathered the Tuatha de Danann, the tribe of the Dan, the Irish and the Danish. Therefore, the Irish people are Celtish, British Israelites by birth, i.e., people of the covenant in the Torah, in the Bible, and in the Ark, which is buried at Tara. So you remember we heard about the Ark, the harp, and there was something else. It was three things there. Reject the House of Windsor anti-covenant and therefore unlawful legislations by all means possible. Do not reject your birthright as Israelites or British people, with your own emblems, the War Queen of Ireland, with trident and olive twig, Tia Tefe. Tefe, symbolised by Britannia, the 6th century BC Queen of all Ireland. If you reject your birthright as Israelites, you're insulting God who gave you your birthright along with the covenant. Ireland is also called Hibernia, Hibernia from Heber, Eber, the great granddad of Abraham, who was the granddad of Jacob, Israel, from whom the Celts are descended. Hibernia, Ireland means Hebrews' new land. Iberia, Spain means Hebrews' land. The Basque, Galician, Asturian, and Guipuzcoan Celts are your cousins. So this is another, obviously, pro-Israel. But even though I've heard a lot of pro-Israel stuff over the years, pro-Israel and anti-Israel, I've never heard really this form, this version, this story, this Celtic sort of link. You always hear about these it's always just the Jews. There's never why nobody ever asks why the royal families think they're from a line of King David and certain Jews and stuff like that. Like, we're quick to blame Jews, but the most powerful people have got this, obviously think they are descended from these kind of people. And this is the flag of Judah. This is Israeli. I just want to show you the Scottish royal seal. That's the Scottish one. Is everyone still seeing these pages? Aye, everyone's still seeing the pages. How is all doing, guys? I'll give you all a little shout out before I go into the next stuff. I've got a couple of more links. They'll not be as long as those first couple. Amanda, yep, how lucky we are. Richard Clark, hey, my loves, LTNS. Angel Raven, that Old Testament goes, was sure a mean bugger. The Lees, yup. Eric Walker, true Timaeus. Flat Earth is all about the East and West, stupid. It was Cain who was first shed blood. It was Cain who built the first city. It was Cain who made the first idol Baal. Timaeus, yeah, Malav. 444, he didn't want the fallen angel blood corrupting us. Laurie Gale, hi, Malav. Malav Cocktail, hey everyone. Walking, so can't keep up with chat. Wanted to say hello. Hello, Malav Cocktail. Amanda, yeah, God gets all the slating for trying to protect his kids. Timaeus, exactly, Amanda. Brandon Cook, how can you have so much information, still not believe you live in a globe? Stop trolling me, Brandon. You wee dick. Right, Flat Earth is all about East and West. Researching. Study Cain, who was marked by the Creator that nobody could kill him. Orphan Red, Egyptian pharaohs had the 7-year debt forgiveness plan. So again, it seems as though the original cult being transmitted is not Judaism, but an Egyptian cult. Timaeus, Hibernia actually comes from the Greek hooper, if I'm not mistaken. Doesn't mean Cain would die of natural causes. Eric Walker. Amanda, just hope people come to realise the truth about God. Pray for people like Richard Dawkins, deluded man. The Antichrist, Dajjal, can only be killed by Isa, Jesus. Flat Earth is all about East and West, says. David Sawyer, Sachs, Goldberg, Gotha. Amanda, yes. Sweetheart, yes. Laurie Gale, yes. Brandon Cook, cool. Orphan Red, these lions are versions of Leo represented by the Egyptian Sphinx. Richard Clark, Brandon-in-law, it's a plane. Shout-outs to make me cringe. David Sawyer, Saxe replaced the Windsor family. Timaeus, yes, I've always noticed a similarity between the line of Judah and the line of King Richard. Richard Clark, indeed, Amanda. Robin Poe, the main problem is that the English bloodlines are contaminated with Nephilim blood. See, this is where I think you're taking this too literal, this Nephilim stuff. I think the whole Nephilim thing could be like people thought there were Nephilim, they were giants, they were the children of the fallen angels that came down. But I think this could be a European race, and maybe they bred with Middle Easterns, and you had like an Indo-European race. So there was maybe a new race came out of the Europeans breeding with the Middle Easterns. And maybe that's who the Nephilim are, like this inbred race of European Celts, maybe, and Middle Easterns. Who knows? But I wouldn't take it literal, like these giants, like Wah! These massive, massive beings. I'm 6'3", again, so if I'm standing beside someone who's 5 foot, I would look like a giant, especially in those days. So what do you think happened to the Edomites, guys? Timaeus, Robin Poe, Amanda. What happened to the Edomites? Where did they go? If the Europeans are like these, if the European families are like these lost tribes of Israel or whatever it is, where did this Esau bloodline go? My wife's 5'2" as well, Amanda. So Europeans are the Edomites then? That could be an interesting take. But according to the Bible, I would definitely take that as a possibility, the Edomites being the Europeans, but I can't find much of the Edomites. I need to do, like, I think there's so much research in this, it's hard to cover it in just a hangout. Anyway, guys, I hope you are having a good night. I'll go back to my screen sharing and some of my commentary. David Sawyer, Jed, Saxe Goldberg, Gotha replaces the Celtic red-haired throne of Britain. They were Ashkenazi Jews. Aye, they were probably another branch. They're probably, because that's the thing. When these Jews, these tribes, tribes split up, certain tribes have got certain destinies to fulfill for God or whatever it is. Certain tribes have certain destinies. Certain tribes lost their right. So I think there's certain tribes of Israel are just causing havoc in the world because that's their job. That's their place. I think each tribe has a certain goal. And I think Britain and America, these two nations, they think, or the Bible has written that these people are the ones that are going to rule the world. Robin Poe, that's right. The rightful kings of Britain should be Stuarts. Well, that's where you have the That's Robin Poe. This is where the Jacobean revolution comes in with Bonnie Prince Charlie, and they were trying to fight for the Stuart dynasty to get back into the throne. But obviously they lost it, and that was a Jacobite rising. Jacob. Why would somewhere in Scotland have a Jacobite rising if it was Jacob? It's in the name. It's all these tiny little clues that make you think, what? Jacobites. What's Jacob got to do with Scotland? I'm a daywalker, redhead. I've got the red beard, but I've got auburny hair. My son is totally ginger, total ginger. He's ginger, but he's got dark eyes. He's not got blue. He's quite a dark, coppery ginger. Right, David Sawyer, SOS, Synagogue of Satan, Barbie. Hello, Barbie, how you doing? Well, what is it, Jay? I just told you, Barbie, says Timaeus. Amanda says, is that bad time? I'm scared. Angel Raven. Don't read papers or magazines, read books. Brandon, Cook, lots. Barbie McGill, Tracy hugs. Okay, everyone's happy. That's cool. Right, we'll go back to some of the comparisons of Celtic sort of heraldry and so that was another clue that made me think this. It's too similar. There's something there. There's something in it. There's something they're trying to tell us. It's not just a flag. So here we have, this is meant to be the bloodline. Abraham, Sarah, Hagar. Hagar had Ishmael. So this is where I think this is where Islam sort of stems from, because Islam is an Abrahamic religion. So I think this doesn't get spoke about. We've spoken tonight a lot about this whole Jacob, this line here. But there's quite a lot of branches that we don't know about, and who are they, and where did they end up, and are they still royal families? Did they just get bred out? Were they captured by the Babylonians and just integrated into their culture? And the Assyrian Empire? Because when I looked at the Assyrians, they weren't Muslims. They weren't Muslims. Where the hell? They're Muslims now, but back then the Assyrians weren't Muslims. They had the sort of Babylonian pagan-y sort of religion. But anyway, so we'll stick to this one, because this is the branch that we're talking about. So Abraham and Sarah, they had Isaac and Rebekah, who had Jacob and Israel, Esau. See, Esau was actually, he was the first. He was the true line. Esau was the true. He was meant to take on the bloodline, this guy. But in the Bible, Esau gave up his lineage for a bowl of stew to Jacob. He was out hunting, he was tired, he came back and he said, brother, I'm hungry, I'm starving, I'm going to die. Give me some food. And Jacob kind of bribed him. Jacob said, I'll give you a bowl of stew as long as you give me the lineage. So Esau gave it up. It wasn't important to Esau. Esau was a red-haired, hairy guy. And I've heard theories that maybe the Germans, maybe the Germans come from this side. Maybe this is the Ashkenazi side that everyone keeps talking about. Who knows? It's an interesting one, because he was meant to be the true lineage. But anyway, it went to Jacob. Jacob and Leah. Well, this is where all these tribes come from. The 12 tribes. Reuben. I've heard Reuben could be France. Simeon. I heard this tribe could have landed in Wales. There's the Levites. Judah. Well, Judah's maybe in Britain. It's maybe Judah's a whole British thing. Dan. Denmark. Maybe Dan's Denmark. Danes. Dan. Naphtali. I'm not sure where they went to. I'm not sure. Gad. So now that's like Jed, eh? Gad. Asher. Issachar. Zebulun. Joseph. Benjamin. So this is what we're talking about. Sorry. This is the lineage that lost their identity. This must be the lineage that the royal family think they are, and this is the lineage that lost their identity. Because I think maybe America and Britain could be Manasseh and Ephraim. Maybe that's Britain and America. These two. I'm not sure, guys, but this could be Britain here in America. Manasseh, America, and Ephraim could be Britain. I'm not sure, guys. It's just, as I said, I'm not a Bible scholar. I'm just looking at certain clues that I see in our culture as well. Like Celts, bagpipes. These things are meant to have came from Egypt and stuff. So it just makes you think. So there's a lineage anyway. Here, this, I was just looking at the Vikings as well, looking at when they were expanding. And to me, by looking at the Vikings, they were just another form of Celt. And this was the Syrian. The Syrians were the ones that kicked the Israelites out. This is the empire, the Syrians. And it was a Babylonian religion that focused on worshipping many gods. However, the Syrians lavished attention on the god Ashur instead of the Babylonian Marduk. Ashur is a deity of the city of Ashur, the old Assyrian capital. It dates back as far as 3000 BC. And look at that Ashur. Where did we see Ashur? I'm sure. Ashur? There's Ashur here. I know it's not Ashur, but Ashur. There's a similarity. Anyway. And it's kind of, I was looking at, obviously, Islam. Islam is a religion articulated by the Quran, a text considered by its adherents to be the verbatim word of God, Allah, and the vast majority of adherents by the teachings and normative examples called Sunnah, composed of accounts called Hadith of Muhammad, is the world's second largest religion and the fastest growing major religion in the world, with over 1.7 billion followers, or 23% of the global population known as Muslims. Islam is an Abrahamic monotheistic religion that upholds that God is one and incomparable, and that the purpose of existence is to worship God. Muslims consider Muhammad to be the last prophet of God. Muslims also believe that Islam is the original, complete, and universal version of a primordial faith that was revealed many times before through prophets, including Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, and Jesus. Right, so Muslims believe that their version of religion is the original. It's been revealed many times before by prophets, including Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, and Jesus. Right, guys, I was totally ignorant to Islam. I didn't know, again, much about the Quran. I didn't want to know. I had that much. After the 9/11 thing, you don't really want to be interested in that religion. But when you look into it, hey, we've got the same players here. As for the Quran, Muslims consider it to be both the unaltered and final revelation of God. Religious concepts and practices include the 5 pillars of Islam, which are obligatory acts of worship, and follow the Islamic law, which touches on virtually every aspect of life and society, from banking and welfare to the status of women and the environment. Islam began in the 7th century, originating in Mecca. And Mecca, this is a funny place here. When I looked in it, I couldn't believe it. And I've heard a lot of people use Islam as a flat earth reference. It was like they laid out the world like a carpet or something like that. And what was the other reference? I don't know, but flat earth like to use this as well. There's actually, flat earth uses all the 3 major religions. They always use the Jewish map, the flat earth map. They use Christian scripture to try and make out there was 4 corners of the world. And Islam's probably the one religion that contradicts flat earth, I think, the most. Because I've heard Muslims describe that the Quran says the earth is egg-shaped, like an ostrich egg. Certain Muslims believe that the earth's like an ostrich egg. And the biggest one is that Mecca, this building, this is a temple. It's the pilgrims go there all the time, and they circle this temple in Mecca. Apparently, Abraham helped build this temple. Anyway, inside this temple in Mecca, there's a meteorite. So where does meteorites fit into flat Earth? Oh, it's a piece of that's what they say. It's a piece of the firmament breaking off or something like that. But Islam worship a meteorite. And it just brings you back to Christian, kind of brings you back to the fallen angel. The star on the most Islamic flags, that star, it's nothing to do with seen through the moon and all that rubbish. It's to do with this meteorite that's kept in this temple in Mecca. Anyway, it quickly spread in the Arabian Peninsula by the 8th century by the Islamic Empire and was extended from Iberia in the west to the Indus River in the east. The Islamic Golden Age refers to the period traditionally dated from the 8th century to the 13th century, when much of the historical Islamic world was experimenting a scientific, economic, and cultural flourishing. The expansion of the Muslim world involved various caliphates and empires, traders, and conversion to Islam by missionary activities. Most Muslims are one of the two denominations, Sunni 75% to 90% or Shia 10% to 20%. About 13% of Muslims live in Indonesia, the largest Muslim majority country, 32% in South Asia, 20% in the Middle East, and 15% in sub-Saharan Africa. Sizable Muslim communities are also found in Europe, China, Russia, and the Americas. Converts and immigrants communities are found in almost every part of the world. So, to me, guys, this is it just ties in with the fake Christian, the perverted Christianity. I think a couple of these religions have been perverted and adjusted to control the people of the world. There maybe was one true religion at some point before, like after pagan. I think most peoples believed in paganism, and then this one God belief propped up somewhere, and Islam was quite late on the train, actually. Especially when it was flourishing. It's funny because even when it was flourishing, the Knights Templars were doing crusades and stuff. The Knights Templars were in Jerusalem in, I think it was the 12th century. They were there probably before Islam. Anyway, what else have we got here? Oh, this is the Iberian Peninsula. This is the part we keep hearing Iberian. The Iberian Peninsula, also known as Iberia, is located in the southwest corner of Europe. The peninsula is principally divided between Portugal and Spain, comprising most of their territory. It also includes Andorra and a small part of France, along with the peninsula's northeastern ridge, as well as Gibraltar on its south coast, a small peninsula which forms an overseas territory of the United Kingdom. So Gibraltar. Why has the United Kingdom got a hold of Gibraltar, Iberia? Well, that's why, I think. And this is just some stuff about the Exodus. You all know about the Exodus. We're not sure if it actually happened. Was it literal? Was it? There must be some kind of story behind it all. We can see here. Have a look at some of the Exodus stuff. But I'm not going to read through it all. I've done a lot of reading. I'm going to wrap this up soon. I've got college tomorrow, so I need to be up early. This is about the colonization of Scotland in the 2nd millennium BC. This is a wee article I found. The settlements in the Western Britain and Ireland, which are the earliest known to us from the chamber tombs, have been ascribed to monuments up Atlantic trade routes from the Mediterranean before the middle of the 2nd millennium. Such movements as at so early a date must be conceded to be surprising, but the broad case for believing in them is a cogent one, and earlier suggestions that the chamber tomb cult implied only missionary settlers, or even that the cult was transmitted without movement of population at all, have rightly been discarded. Nonetheless, it's far from easy to visualize precisely the processes of settlement and trade, and the thesis has hardly yet been critically tested. It is the purpose of this paper, all right, Scotland in the 2nd millennium, blah, blah, blah. Right. So they reckon Scotland, but... And this is a thing that puzzles me as well. It says that they conquered the Picts And the Picts were a Celtish people too. So were the Picts descended from the tribes as well? Because it seems like they were all fighting each other. Oh, I love the Pictish art. This stuff is amazing. I've seen it firsthand. I've been up to some of these stones firsthand. Amazing stuff. Amazing art. But that's another one to look into, the Picts, because they spoke a form of Gaelic as well. I'll just give you a wee preface on the Picts were a tribal confederation of peoples who lived in what is today eastern and northern Scotland during the late Iron Age and early medieval periods. They are thought to have been ethno-linguistically Celtic. Where they lived and what their culture was like can be inferred from the geographical distributions of Brock's, Britannic place name elements and Pictish stones. Picts are attested to in written records from before the Roman conquest of Britain to the 10th century, when they are thought to have merged with the Gaels. They lived to the north of the river of the Forth and Clyde. This is where I live, the Forth, and spoke the now extinct Pictish language, which is thought to have been closely related to the Celtic Brittonic language spoken by the Britons who lived to the south of them. Picts are assumed to have been descendants of the Caledonii and other tribes that were mentioned by Roman historians or on the world map of Ptolemy. Pictland was also called Pictavia by some sources, gradually merged with the Gaelic kingdoms of Dalriata from the kingdom of Alba, Scotland. Alba then expanded, absorbing the Brittonic kingdom of Strathclyde and Bernician Lothian, and by the 11th century the Pictish identity had been subsumed into the Scots amalgamation of peoples. So, well, actually the dates here, the Picts must be after the Celts. Maybe the Celts and the Picts were just the same people at the end of the day. But it's interesting, interesting stuff, guys. And that's what's amazing about Scotland, all these stone monoliths. And this is just a wee bit about the tribe of Joseph. Now, this is on Wikipedia. This is just a quick, and we all know that Wikipedia is a lot of bullshit, but I'll just give you a quick. Right, the tribe of Joseph are one of the tribes of Israel, since Ephraim and Manasseh, often called the two half-tribes of Joseph, together traditionally constituted the tribe of Joseph. It was not listed as one of the tribes in favour of Ephraim and Manasseh being listed in its place. Consequently, it was often termed the House of Joseph, Beit Yosef, to avoid the use the term tribe. According to the Targum Pseudo-Jonathan, the ensign of both the house of Joseph and the tribe of Benjamin was the figure of a boy with the inscription, "The cloud of the Lord rested on them until they went forth out of the camp," a reference to events in the Exodus. There were obvious linguistic differences between at least one portion of Joseph and other Israelite tribes at the time when Ephraim were at war with the Israelites of Gilead. See, so these tribes are fighting each other. Under the leadership of Jephthah, the pronunciation of Shibboleth as Sibboleth was considered sufficient evidence to single out individuals from Ephraim so that it could be subjected to immediate death by the Israelites of Gilead. At its height, the territory of Joseph spanned the Jordan River, the eastern portion being entirely discontiguous from the western portion, only slightly touching at one corner. Northeast of the western portion of southwest on the eastern portion. The western portion was at the center of Canaan, west of Jordan between the tribe of Issachar on the north and the tribe of Benjamin on the south. The region was later named Samaria, as distinguished from Judea or Galilee. Mostly consisted of the western portion of Joseph. The eastern portion of Joseph was the northmost Israelite group on the east of the Jordan, occupying the land of the tribe of Gad, extending from the Manaim in the south to the Mount Hermon in the north, and including with it the whole of Bashan. These territories bounding in water are precious commodity in Canaan, and the mountainous portions only afforded protection, but happened to be highly fertile. Early centers of Israelite religion Shechem and Shiloh were additionally situated in the region. The territory of Joseph was thus one of the most valuable parts of the country, and the house of Joseph became the most dominant group in the kingdom of Israel. So it's just some information about the blessings and stuff like that. According to the Torah, the tribe consisted of the descendants of Joseph, a son of Jacob and Rachel, from whom it took its name. However, some biblical scholars view this also as post-diction, an eponymous metaphor providing an etiology of the connectedness of the tribe to other in the Israelite confederation. In the biblical account, Joseph was the brother of Benjamin, the other son of Rachel and Jacob, and the eponym of the tribe of Benjamin, which was located to the immediate south of the tribe of Joseph. So it just sort of babbles on about the different sort of. I'm sure it had something about the whole. Here we go. Here, considered less plausible. Considered less plausible. This is. Remember, this is Wikipedia. So but we'll say it anyway. Considered less plausible by academic and Jewish authorities are the claims of several Western Christian and related groups, in particular those of the Church of God in Christ. It claims that the whole UK is a direct descendant of Ephraim, and the whole United States is a direct descendant of Manasseh, based on the interpretation that Jacob had said that these two tribes would become the most supreme nations in the world. Many members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, identified as descended from Manasseh and Ephraim in a grafted sense of ancestry, believing that the lost tribes are being restored in the latter days, meaning now, as prophesied by Isaiah. Some Mormons believe that this would be the fulfillment of the part of the blessing of Jacob, where it states that Joseph is a fruitful bough, even a fruitful bough by a well, whose branches run over the wall, with the interpretation that the wall is the ocean. Some adherents of Messianic Judaism also identify as part of Joseph on the basis that, regardless of any genetic connection, which may or may not exist, they observe the Torah and interpret parts of the Tanakh in certain ways. So there's even that mention that America and Britain, the Mormons claim this lost tribe thing. So don't accuse me of being a Mormon, guys, but I think that they try and say this stuff too, and they can say consider less plausible, but everything that I've seen kind of points more towards the West. And this is meant to be the route after the Exodus and where they went. I heard that Scythia, Scotland, as well, apparently gets its name from Scythia, like Scotia, Scotland, Scythia. There's Dan up in Denmark. What was that? To North America, Tuath de Danann. See, this is in Ireland, the Irish Sea. Tuath de Danann. That's Dan again. There's Carthage, Iberia. This is Iberia down here, Spain. So this is the alleged. Like I said, guys, this is just food. If anyone's still out there, I've not looked at chat, but if anyone's still out there, I'm not saying that this is true, not at all. But what I'm saying through looking through an objective I'm not looking at this from a religious point. I'm looking at this from sort of like an archaeological, genetic, linguistic. I'm trying to look at it from these different points. Movements of peoples, like language. I'm trying to figure it out that way rather than try to take the Bible literally. I think there's a story in the Bible, but I don't think it's always literal. And this was like this was lists of the kings of Pictland. And you can see a lot of these names. These aren't the names that dominate our phone books or our Facebooks today. Well, none of my friends have got these kind of names, but these were Scottish names. And I remember what someone saying to me, how could you have names like Michael and Peter and Paul? And stuff like that, like from the Middle East. And it's a good point. But I think Britain didn't have these names either. I think these were sort of Greco-Latin names. I think they came from Greece or Roman. Michael and it's probably just Michelangelo and all these different names. They must have come. They never started in Britain. People think names like Michael, that's British names. It's not. These were old British names. And the first one I recognised was Alpin, because we've got a Mick Alpin, who was the first king of Scotland. Anyway, you can have a list. You can have a look at all the kings. It's crazy, crazy stuff that we didn't really think about, or like we don't really think about these things. Anyway, guys, I'm going to have a look at chat because that's 523. I knew this one would be a long one, but I hope he's a kind of. I know it's probably boring for a lot of yous, but and probably a lot of yous I'm already preaching to the choir. I think there's maybe a few yous that have already got this kind of idea, but I do. Like I've been accused of being a Jew. I've heard a lot of Jew bashing from Eric DeBay, from even Jeranism, from a lot of people that are ignorant of this. They're so quick just to call people Jews. I think it's a lot deeper than just Jews, guys. I think there's a lot more in it than just Jews. So before these people Jew bash, they need to realize that they need to do some research. That's what they need to do. Right, so I'm going to have a look at chat, see who's in. There's 23 people. Right. Hello, Multi Tom Tom. How you doing, pal? Flat Earth Freedom with Jay Preferlat is in the house. Timaeus is still here. Richard Clark is here. Robin Poe. I know Laurie's probably still lurking somewhere in the background, just watching, keeping everything clean, which is good. There'll not be any perversion in this hangout. And guys, you can watch back in this hangout and you'll not get one single advert. Nothing has been monetized. It's funny because I went on Nathan Oakley's hangout tonight and the first thing I'm hit with is an advert. You don't even get to see them talking at first. It just puts you off. You just want to skip it. It just annoys you. Orphan Red, Jed, look up Ireland goddess Dana. Aye, that's probably from the tribe of Dan again, as we said. So it's funny how all these different cultures seem to come merging together. It's crazy, guys. It is crazy. Rob Skiba taught me last week that Jesus is the literal right hand of the Father, says Delise. Angel Raven, it's allegory, not litagory. Orphan Red, Irish Dana was equivalent to the Egyptian goddess Isis. Timaeus, I don't believe that God has a son, Tom. I believe that Jesus is God, the only God, Yahweh. It's funny because Yahweh, even though I grew up in a sort of Christian based, like even at primary school, we had the priest used to come in and we used to sing our hymns. It wasn't, like I said, it wasn't thrown down our throat. It was just part of every school at the time. You had your Christmas plays and the nativity. You always had like the nativity. It wasn't, we didn't see it as a religious thing. We just seen it as just part and parcel of Christmas and stuff. It wasn't like we didn't see it as a really strong religious thing. But it's strange how anyway, before I started rambling, I never heard anybody call God Yahweh. Or unless I didn't take notice of that. But Yahweh, that seemed new to me. I always heard him just being referred to as God or God Almighty or Father or whatever. Like this Yahweh stuff is Yahweh and Joshua and Yahweh, and this is all pretty new to me. And I think it's that sort of Jew. It's got that sort of Hebrew sort of word attached to it. Multi-Tom, Jesus was created without a father. Delise, it is how we explain the Trinity. Multi-Tom-Tom, a miracle. Robin Poe, the Quran teaches Jesus was not the Son of God because Muhammad could understand the teaching of the Trinity. Timaeus, I'm a Unitarian, not a Trinitarian. Amanda, what a wonderful lineage we have. Timaeus, Unitarian. Richard Clark, Deleuze, he is. Deleuze, Muhammad was illiterate. Multi-tom-tom, a step in the right direction. Timaeus, Robin Poe. So Muhammad invented his blasphemous Quran. Richard Clark, lol, 444, BBC pays all the Bathans expensive. Seti is the genitive of cetus, a Latin word for whale. Lots of rabbis denounce Zionists, fake Jews, says Richard Clark. Multi-tom-tom, God has no name. Love song, Richard lol, those guys are loved in Iran, says Richard Clark. Angel Raven Poe, your line go back to Edgar Allan. Tau Seti Alpha, my Latin is quite deficient, sorry. Join the club, Tau. So I think I'll just wrap up there, guys. I hope it was interesting for a few years. I think it deserves further investigation, because I think a lot of what's happening in global politics and world, just the social, just the aspect of everything right now, the 9/11, everything, the world wars, everything was because of this, I think. And there's a reason why we're the dominant power in the world. And if you think about it, if we weren't, who would be? If we weren't the dominant people in the world, who would be? And how cruel could they be in comparison? Well, I don't really want to find out. To be pragmatic about it, really, we could say, why are we blowing up the Middle East? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? Well, maybe if we weren't doing that, they'd be doing it to us. Who knows? I don't know. You can't be an idealist about everything. You have to be pragmatic sometimes. And when you look at like stories in the Bible, and sometimes you wonder, this is why they do these things. This is why they're the most powerful nations in the world. Thanks, guys. I hope I didn't knock too many noses out of place. I didn't want to offend anyone. I just want to present stuff I've noticed. And religion comes up all the time in Flat Earth, guys. We can't forget that. So if they want to talk about religion and Jews, let's talk about them properly. We can't just skim over it and go, Jews. It's ridiculous, guys. We need to wake up to this. There's probably no such thing as Jews. Just smoking a cigarette, guys, if you hear me. Laurie Gale, as usual, thanks for moderating. It looks like it's been nice and clean. Orphan Red says, I agree, I'd rather have Western ideology and control. And pragmatically, so would I. Like I said, I'm not a religious person, but looking at all the religions, I see Christianity as the one that's in my culture. It's embedded in my culture if I like it or not. I've probably got ancestors that fought for this culture, that died for this culture. And I don't see why we should be so ignorant of it all of a sudden. We should be aware of it. We don't have to force it down people's throats. We should be aware of it. And we should wake up to this stuff. If it's literal, if it's metaphorical, I'm not sure, but it's there. It's there, guys. It's there. There's no denying. And has anyone seen the Book of Eli with Denzel Washington? The Book of Eli, it's funny, it's like an anagram of lie. Eli is about a book, the last Bible. It's actually the King James Bible, and it's the last book on the planet because there was a mass book burning. And this one guy, he rules, it's like Mad Max. It's like a post-apocalyptic world. Who's the actor again? I think it was Gary Oldman. That's who it was. He played a brilliant part in it. But he wanted the Bible because he knew if he got the Bible, he could put religion on top, because the world, there's cannibalism and everything. Everyone's like vicious and feral, and he knew if he could get a hold of this King James Bible, he could rule the world. He knew this was a very powerful book, and it makes you think that it's the same with the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, the whatever, Talmud, Babylonian Talmud, whatever it is. That these books are just instructions for the powers that be to control people. And I think that we've lost our real spirituality, our original beliefs have been perverted. But maybe they were meant to be perverted for us to discover, just to follow scripture. Because it said that the people would forget, and then they would realize they're waking up to it. So guys, is this us waking up to it? Everyone here in chat, is this the start of it? Has it already started? God knows. But a lot of people might call it Zionism, and it's not. I've heard it being described as British Israelism, and that's just the same as, I suppose it's just the same as Zionism. That's probably one of the reasons why the Queen rules Britain and a good chunk of the world. Angel Raven says Jews run Hollywood. Like I said, I think the word Jew should be forgotten about. I think it's a stupid word. It's like chemtrail when you're talking about. It's like or conspiracy theorist. It's like a derogatory term to attach. And I think Jew, that word Jew, is a derogatory term. I think we're all deluded if we think that the Nazis, they weren't even, they were maybe even a branch of Jews. If you go back far enough, maybe the Germans with the Esau. I don't know. But even Esau came from Abraham's line, so at the end of the day, it's still Jewish. It's still the same, well, Israeli, whatever it is. And it's always been that these tribes will battle each other, just like the European royalty battled each other over the years. It's just the same. We've always been battling. Even Scotland, the tribes of Scotland, the clans, all the clans warring, and it just reminds you of Israel, where their tribes warring. Anyway, I'm rambling. I need to get to my bed. I'm tired. I've nearly been up 24 hours. Okay, a last shout out to everybody that was here. Thanks for turning up, guys. You've been really good, well behaved. Everyone's kept it civil. There's been no Jew bashing. There's been no discrimination. Everyone's got an opinion, which I appreciate. If you've got any more information on this topic, guys, please leave it in the comments when I wrap this up and it's a video. It'll be on my main channel. Leave it in the comments. Maybe I can do deeper research. I've got more research. This is just a tip of the iceberg, practically, and I've went on for quite a while. But I do think there is a strong connection between Celtic Europeans and these tribes. Whether the Exodus was a real thing or not, I think there was a movement of people through Europe. Whether they bred with the people that were already there, or whether they conquered them and kept their own. I think it's just what the destinies for each tribe. Each tribe's got a destiny, and I think the British and the American tribes, maybe I think they've took it upon themselves to be the Joseph tribe or whatever it is. It's the main tribe, the main ones, guys. So, right. I'll wrap this up now. Thanks for everybody that came. Just think about it. Come back, like I said, and I hope you have a great night, and I'll be looking forward to future hangouts with you guys. Cheers.